The US Director of National Intelligence affirmed rather bluntly this week that the US intelligence community has authority to assassinate American citizens if they present a direct terrorist threat to the country. Speaking before the House Intelligence Committee, Dennis Blair acknowledged that President Obama is continuing the Bush-era policy that was given a few years ago. Now, Blair said the reason he made the admission was to reassure Americans. The Department of Defense will, and I quote here, follow a set of defined policy and legal procedures that are very carefully observed, he said. Commentators, though, were furious at the admission, citing the illegality of assassination as well as the policy's total disregard for due process. Now, according to US officials, only a handful of Americans would be eligible for targeting by US intelligence or military operations. The legal guidance is determined, though, by the National Security Council and the Justice Department, and that's raised question marks. In the past, the US has killed Americans overseas, but they've been viewed as collateral damage. I mean, this programme, we consider if there's a necessity for such action, the legality of it and the consequences too, with our guests joining us from the Answer Coalition, Richard Backer in San Francisco, and also political commentator Michael Scott Carter joining us on the phone from London. I'd like to thank you both for being with us. And Mr. Backer, are you surprised at this admission at all, that these assassinations are taking place under Obama, as they were, of course, under Bush?
Well, it's not surprising, but it's no less appalling that this is taking place. And the president is declaring himself to be judge, jury, and executioner here in this case. And whether it's U.S. citizens or people who are not U.S. citizens, this is a complete violation of any conception of human rights or due process of law. And I should also add, the idea, if people have the idea in the United States that this is making U.S. citizens safer, I think in fact the opposite is the case, that these kind of policies, this policy of assassination, which revokes a policy that specifically outlawed this kind of assassination policy 30 years ago, if anyone thinks this is making people in the United States safer, they are really completely misled.
I mean, Mr. Carter, Congressman Peter Hoekstra said at the hearing which this was announced, and I quote here, "There is no clarity. What is the legal framework?" Let me address that question to you then. What is the legal framework for this, Mr. Carter?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Well, the difficulty is there is no assassinations under the within the U.S. policy and the constitutionality of it. I'm unfamiliar with there being an opening for assassination to be done by sort of any organ of government. Now, trying to make this sort of a legal policy within the sort of U.S. Constitution will be very difficult. Now, the next question is, what are the next procedures to, that this sort of new agenda has to go through before it's executed? For example, if we look at other aspects of, for example, election policy and which the Supreme Court has just now sort of opened up, Congress has a number of things it can do to sort of stave that off. I think this is probably not the last we'll hear of this, because often judgments can take place based on a very narrow aspect, and it'll seem like it has a sort of larger causational effect when in actuality it doesn't.